All right, we took a break on air, but not here. The conversation went on. There are several things that have been said, but now I want us to focus on that gender question, because at the moment, the cabinet that CS Kobia sits at, there are 7 women as CSs and 18 men. I'm talking about the cabinet secretaries, as well as the president and the deputy and the attorney general. Those are 18 men. Sometimes during cabinet sittings, there'll be other people because of the offices they occupy. But let's talk about the cabinet secretaries. Then at the Kenyan Senate, if I'm not mistaken, there are 22 women, 45 men. At the National Assembly, you can correct me if I'm wrong, 74 women and 275 men. Those are both elected and nominated. The majority of them are actually elected. So we still face that challenge of women getting into elective positions, because if you look at the Senate, it's just 4 women that have been elected, and the 4th one was just elected on the 18th of March 2021 after the former Senator of Machakos died. So, Honorable, CS Kobia, of course, there's that statement that was said by Honorable Boss here that you may not have done as much in as far as achieving the gender parity. And I remember one time you were on the show and you said that you are now actually pushing for 50-50 gender parity when it comes to matters elective and appointive. What is stopping us? Because yes, we have a process in the name of BBI, so many reforms are being taken, but still not at that point that you'd say at least a third in most of these offices.
I think we need to appreciate and recognize Constitution 2010. Because when Constitution 2010 says for appointed position, you need still 2/3. So if you look at the cabinet, you look at the public service right now, you realize actually that has been fulfilled. Also in judiciary. Let me just very quickly comment about the many ladies who are in the judiciary. I think that could be used for and against. I realize in the social media, they're trying to put there are too many women to show that also you should not have the Chief Justice who is a woman. But I think that was designed, because when you look at all the women in the judiciary, all the men in various positions, actually they make 42%. And so it is not really like they are the only ones. But we must recognize that even 42 is a very big number. So in judiciary and executive, we are compliant with the Constitution 2010. So I think we need to recognize that. Where we have a challenge is in legislative, which means elective position. And for sure, there are many reasons why women still are not able to get to elective position. One, of course, the whole issue of when you want to become a member of parliament, you will be faced with funding. Funding is a huge problem because if you have to bring people, they require venue, they require transport. So funding has always been a big problem. The other big problem has also been prejudices and the tradition norms. People only think member of parliament to be a man. And the other one is also the violence, and I'm happy that's why BBI now is looking at anybody who makes any violence to women candidates or even male candidates. It is very specific that they will have sanctions. So those 3 reasons have kept women from getting the 2/3 through elected position, because I strongly believe it's better to be elected than nominated. Right. Therefore, I think we need to recognize the gains we have made and remember there's still some work to be done within the elective, I mean within the parliament. But Sam, allow me just to say also, even as we celebrate the comment today, women in senior position are easily attacked. So we must be aware the society is still kind of resisting that change, so women are most scrutinized. And if you don't really have like a plan that is backed with a support system, coping strategies, sometimes you might find there's already motion to remove you before even you have sat on that seat. Right. So I think we need to be aware how do we support women who are in this senior position so that they can be able to perform their jobs well. But I'm glad Kome had a plan, which she has already flagged out. All she needs to do is to get the funding, and I'm sure she's going to be focused on judicial funding, because so for independence, you need that judiciary fund. So I think what I'm trying to say is we have made some gains because of Constitution 2020, especially appointed position. The struggle is now in Parliament, which I think Sharai will be able to, Honorable Sharai will be able to articulate what is likely to happen moving forward,
okay,
so that we comply with the constitutional requirement. We have already done that a lot as a ministry. We have the 4 times this registration has been taken to Parliament to comply with 2/3 agenda. The ministry has been in the forefront, working with the Gender Commission to ensure, including talking to the committees, talking to the members of Parliament, sensitizing people, civic education. So it's not true when we are told as a ministry, as a minister, we are not done enough towards supporting the 2/3 rule in the Parliament.
Okay.
It's only that it's a journey that we have to continue working.
Okay. Irungu, she says that the cabinet is gender compliant. Well, it could be when you are talking about the CSs that were appointed, that is 7 out of 21, it's squarely a third. But if you are to incorporate the Attorney General, Raphael Tuju, who sits in cabinet, the president and the deputy, then that equation is goes off the cliff. What is stopping us? Because people look at is it the Standard or the Nation and see President Samia Suluhu? What is stopping us as a country to reach a point where you can say, of course, counties are having running mates who are women or candidates who are women. What is stopping the country from now saying we are at a point that the presidential running mate is a woman or the presidential candidate is a woman and they can actually go ahead and win?
Yeah, I mean, in one word, it's patriarchy. And patriarchy is a system that basically says power and privilege follow gender lines, and therefore women are disadvantaged systemically from being able to take political office or from being able to accumulate economic resources or to be able to be employed. I mean, I think we do need to step back a little bit and just look at this from a global context, right? So less than 6% of the heads of states in the world are women. Something like 24% of, on average, across the world, of the world's parliaments are women. 44% of the women who do take political office, women like Honorable Patricia Mudheo or even Honorable Beatrice Elachi, if we want to take a Nairobi example, have experienced either verbal abuse or violence in the context of discharging their roles as public officers. And I think, this is the context within which, we have to rise and challenge. I think for many Kenyans, we are still very disappointed by the lack of compliance with the gender 2/3 rule in our constitution. And I think, I hear it from the minister. I'm sure I'm going to hear it from Commissioner Nyokabi, and I hear it definitely from Honorable Shule. So the question is what is it that is not happening, or what is it that we are not able to do to actually make this happen? We have seen the impact of investment in women in the judiciary. Right? This is clear. So I think in terms of the legislative, we need to be thinking a little bit more about what is it that we can put in place 2 years for less than 2 years before the next general elections to have women elected on merit to a point that we are actually seeing a parity 50-50.
Okay, and Honorable Commissioner, now the BBI is proposing that 47 counties elect 2 persons, a male and a female, or a man and a woman, so gender parity achieved at that point. 360 seats or constituencies, and political parties are required to ensure that a third of the nominations are at least women or either gender. But then again, if the Jubilee Party is strong in Mount Kenya, in Rift Valley, if you're to use 2017 as an example, and then you say that the third representation or nominees will come from Nyanza, where you have no show, then ODM says that we are strong in ODM and Western, so we have our 1/3 of women in Central Kenya. Of course, you are compliant. But what will we stop political parties from doing such kind of games and ensure that we are technically or in actual sense achieving the gender rule as per the Constitution?
Well, one of the things that would happen is that you're doing that in an electoral context. Right. It was put to us as a threat, and we did. We say put us in Nyanza. When we are there, tutajipangia huko. Unajua, how can that be a threat? Because there's a presidential candidate. If the presidential candidate, for example, if the Prime Minister now was the presidential candidate and doesn't put women in Nyanza, puts women in Central, and wants the votes of women for his presidency, we can clearly see because the list is open. And the same for the deputy president, for example. If he's going to be a presidential candidate, there is no way. It is an electoral contest. The lists are open. We can see where you have put the women. And in the meantime, the women in Nyanza, which is a conversation we all have, and that is a conversation for all women. By the time the Prime Minister is putting Gladys in Nyeri, what is Gladys doing in Nyanza, not, you know, protesting? Because the good thing about this, and the conversation is this way for Kenya, the law is supposed to inspire the change. We could have waited for society to change. And I kid you not, we were measured. It would take us 100 years. We don't have 100 years to wait for gender equality. So now the law makes us move faster. That is why these measures are in law. Because it is the IEBC. That question can even be taken to court because you also have winnable seats. You have, you know, seats that are potentially or, you know, likely strongholds, as we call them here in our politics. So those matters will come under contestation. But then the other good thing for us is this. The opposite gender rule in counties has asked the county governor, the person vying for governor, to consider, and the word is shall consider. Is not exactly as easy as it looks. Shall consider nominating a person of the opposite gender. We didn't get it in the national level. But that also means that a presidential candidate who wants the women to consider him for winning must then consider the women. The easiest way to consider women is to have a running mate who is a woman. And we've already seen that with Tanzania. And I hope that is the message Suluhu, president, is going to bring to us, that women can do it. And we saw it in counties where like counties like Nyeri, for example, the Nairobi County now, with Anne Kananu, by the way, we forgot to say now we have a 4th woman governor. You know, we are moving. But
Contested.
then let me just come quickly to some of the points that I wanted to raise here. One is that the law is very, very critical. And that is why Sholei's earlier position that we haven't done anything is not true. The Gender Commission has been part of all the Duale laws, Duale 1, Duale 2, even your own bill. We are part of that bill. We are supporting you. But then what has always been the point is that you need the male allies and you need the male leadership for this question on gender, because the gender question is not just a women's question, it's actually a societal question. So when the BBI process came, that is where we took our issues, because it's a reform moment for the country, so that we are part of that whole reform environment. And the BBI has full 2/3 implementation, full, in the National Assembly and the Senate and the county legislatures as well. As to the matters of appointment, we still have Article 27, and it's true we are falling short even in CASES and PSs. The judiciary is doing very well on gender, but is not doing well on disability. So one of the other things for Madam Chief Justice is also going to be the disability 5%. Judiciary is at now 1.6, and because judiciary is holding the torch on all other things, let them also do the disability so that they can then push the other 2 organs. The Supreme Court had 2 women. Remember, when we used to ask for Parliament to pass the law, they would, you know, carelessly tell us, hata hii Supreme Court munaenda, haijafikisha. Sasa, by God's grace, as usually I'd call Italia, Supreme Court imefikisha. With Martha Koome and Justice Mwilu and Justice Njoki Ndong'o, we now have 3. And for us, 2/3 usually means 34%. No gender should exceed 66. Many people come to 30%. The ratio is not 30%, it's actually 34%.
Right.
So with Supreme Court now fully compliant, we are hoping the IEBC, because it is the next online, will also be fully compliant, which means 3 slots go to women. And then the National Assembly and the Senate also become 2/3 compliant, and then push the rest of society. Remember, it is not over, because men and women are equal. Men and women have different roles. So even at PTA, Coffee Society, church, even, you know, even in my own church, Catholic Church, we want to see more women playing their rightful leadership role. So it's a societal issue, and men and women are equal. That must be the premise from which we start.
All right, Commissioner. Honorable Boss, we are practically out of time. I just wish you can give your view in a minute so that you don't eat into the time of Sporty Monday, but specifically on now the way forward, because all these contestations have been there. You have expressed your reservations with the BBI, but what do we do, especially as you approach 2022?
I think what should have been important is the framers of the 2010 Constitution were clearly aware that it was going to be very difficult to be able to mobilize Parliament and the men in Parliament to vote for a 2/3 gender rule. They knew that. Hence the reason why they put there a requirement that should Parliament fail to pass the following laws, then Parliament should be dissolved. Because let me tell you, we cannot get the men folk in Parliament to mobilize unless there is a political consequence to it. Even the president will not mobilize unless there is a political consequence to it. There has to be a political cost. That is the only way they're going to support. And it's the only way we saw we could achieve it, so that we don't take the 100 years that Nyokabi is talking about. So it was for a reason that it was put. And so we are saying we were so protected. We had a solution. Why are we giving up that solution to go for another solution under a new constitutional amendment, which basically we are going to be negotiating and hoping that people will think, and hoping that the presidential candidate will hope that he wants to get votes in Nyanza. That is, it's so speculative, yet we had this concretely put in law. The other thing is, once we had the 47 women secured in parliament, why should we then give that up and then lump all the women, and guarantee women seats in the Senate? Some women want to be involved in devolution, therefore they'll go to Senate. Women like me have strength in legislation. I want to remain in the National Assembly. So why are we giving up the seats? I was hoping for a situation where that I have now been given the chance by the women of Uasin Gishu County to run as a women representative. I was a newcomer. I'd never been in politics. I needed that platform to get there. Now that I was hoping another woman was grooming other women to come and take that seat so that I can now go for a more competitive seat.
Okay.
So, but they've taken that away. So we have actually gained. We are telling ourselves we've gained through the proposals under BBI, but then we've also reversed.
Okay.
Even when you put there, I'll give you an example. Under the amendment bill, the BBI amendment bill, it says that Parliament shall enact law to sanction political parties who don't nominate people within the 2/3 gender rule. Now, when you keep saying Parliament shall enact, in fact, in more than 5 places in that BBI bill, it says Parliament shall enact.
That's the nature of constitutions.
If Parliament, but if we know, we have the experience.
Open the discussion.
Yes, but that's a discussion. But all we are saying is, we had a security here where we said, if Parliament does not enact, we dissolve.
Okay.
So we also want to see a situation, will we dissolve Parliament now if they don't enact that issue of the 2/3 under the political parties, under the current BBI? Will we dissolve Parliament?
All right.
But you have to remember, the CJ's advisory is on court. There is a court case going on.
Yes,
and the NGC is part of the court case.
Right.
There is a court case.
That advisory by Chief Justice David Maraga to the President to
and
dissolve
that
Parliament.
NGC we supported.
But all
Is
said
still
and
at the
done.
courts. Thank you so much, Honorable Gladys Boss, CS Margaret Kobia, Commissioner Kirby, Priscilla, as well as Irungu Houghton. Thank you so much for making time for us to have this conversation. And it continues. We'll never conclude or wind up. It's an ongoing discussion. We hope that the best can be achieved so that there is fairness when it comes to all these matters. Up next is Sporty Monday with Ulis Raburu. See you again tomorrow. My name is Sam Gituku. Bye for now.